100 children to do. This year the Queen quit coming to 100 live right here from St. Helena Island right here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, South Kakalaki. Well, look, your 100 children, plenty of time with 100 to deal with me and things like that, and 100 yeti what going on and thing. 100 yeti, all these your festival and all the rest of thing we to do, what to celebrate who we be and things like that. Well, this year day, we want 100 for yeti, but how for heal we and things like that. And so, yes, South Carolina ranks high on some things, but in this case, it ranks high in a category that most of us really don't ever want to talk about, and that is in the incidence of cancer for men and women. And so the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank, we've been working on a number of things to try to find ways to heal our community and sustain our culture. You don't sustain a culture without the people who make up the community. So it is a blessing to have an opportunity to bring to you one of our training sessions where we partnered with the Medical University of South Carolina's Hollings Cancer Center, actually to provide a cancer facilitation education training. And so the educators that are educated during the training will then go out into community groups and then be able to share this knowledge so that people can begin to have healthier lifestyles, like being outside, enjoying the great outdoors, exercising, getting a move on, eating good, healthy food, and of course keeping a lot of stress out of your life always helps. And so we want you to just tune in to a little bit of the training, but more than that, we want to make sure that you go out and take care of your health. Make sure that you get your annual screenings for various things. Be in tune with your body. Be in tune with who wanted to be and things like that. And if you are at a doctor that seems like, oh, they're not listening to you because you say something's happening with your body that never happened before, that's why you get a second and sometimes a third, maybe even a fourth opinion, because we definitely want you to be healthy so that we have a community so that we can still stay here and be who we to be. And so definitely I want to thank Dr. Cannady and her colleague that came along to present this outstanding cancer educator facilitator training. And so tune in and then check out their site, because if you'd like to have a training done in your community or even just an informative gathering done in your community, we can connect you with them and then they can come there and do a training, or some of us who are now trained can come and crack we teeth with Hona children and Lee Wall and things like that, so that this way we can find a way to at least heal our community so that we can rank high in health and not rank high in cancer. Hona children know who they should be. They should have Queen Quet, head upon the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. So glad they Hona to tune into this year Gullah Geechee TV, we TV station. And Hona children know if Hona there with me, Hona going know this year the what going on. Queen Quet, head upon the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation and the founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. I'm also the founder of what's called the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. This think tank has now existed just about 5 years, and we focus on a number of different things that can not only sustain the environment of the Sea Islands and the Gullah Geechee Nation, but the people of the Gullah Geechee Nation, because there's no need to do all this environmental work and we not here. All right? So the land are there and we go, okay? So one of the things that we've done is do a great deal of interactive work with different institutions, and largely many of them are based in Charleston. So the College of Charleston and MUSC are two of our biggest partners in the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. We have tried to engage USCB, but it's been peripheral. Fortunately, because Dr. Najma Thomas is now there, who is a native of St. Helena, she's been participating, and so we do have sort of a connection to that university, but more so her interest is particular because she is Gullah Geechee herself. And so it has been a very good journey, and this is just one component of that journey, being able to bring to the community different types of sessions that we feel will help with healing, but also awareness, because I always feel like the living experience is what makes the difference to people. And so when Dr. Cannady mentioned to me well, would you all be interested in doing a cancer educator facilitator training? I said, okay, that sounds really good. That's certainly something we could use. And the more we emailed, and I said, well, this is good. This is going to be something that's not for people who are cancer survivors per se, but for people who need to be aware of things that you could do in your lifestyle, be more healthy, be more proactive, so we can try to lower the incidence of cancer in our community. But we also need to know what are triggers. What causes it? What kind of things have they seen in the research that they've done at Hollings Cancer Center to kind of figure out what might be some things that the community needs to know. So God willing, at the end of today, you all now will be charged not to be doctors, but community facilitators. That you'll be able, you don't have to be like Dr. Cannady and do what I call death by PowerPoint. You don't have to do all the techno stuff. You'll be able to have enough speak, as they call it on the Hill, talking points, to be able to just sit with some folks, that's your family, your friends, folks at the senior center, the community center. You love to talk, so wherever you at, so that you'll have a chance to sit with people and then start to talk and dialogue and share the things you learned here today, so that then our community, you'll be surprised how in one conversation you enlighten a bunch of people. You say one thing that to you is no big deal, and somebody else will, what? I never thought of that. I didn't realize that. You mean to tell me I need to go get checked then? I'm not sure if this is not what this is. Because, you know, and I'm glad Mr. Glover's here, because more often than not, we know the men in our community do not check anything until something falls off. Something got to fall off the car, something got to fall off the body, something got to look like it most about to fall off. And usually it's their mom or their wife that still beat them into submission to go check them. Okay, go with an expert. You stop picking up this stuff and trying to fix yourself. Get on down. And then we wonder, why do the women live longer than the men? So I'm really happy you're here, because you will allow us into another circle with this information that Dr. Cannady is going to share today. And so we definitely want it to be a broad range of folks that get the information that we're all getting here today. And so my colleague, associate, our other Carolina girl, Dr. Cannady, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I can go get a student now. All right, glad to have you here.
Queen Quentin's getting my whole interested in my goals for the education guide. But first, I wanted to welcome you all and thank you all for coming. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Cannady. She's already mentioned that where I'm from, and I am the newly appointed community health educator for the Medical University of South Carolina Hollings Cancer Center.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is a program that we've been doing through our Cancer Disparities program, and I'll talk about that a little later. And we used to do 3 per year all throughout South Carolina. But with this new grant that we have, now we've upped it to 13 per year all throughout South Carolina. And so this is actually my first one.
It is?
Yes, well, my first one for the year as community health educator. So this one, I always remember, it was special.
Yes.
I brought my assistant, Bobby Blake,
Yeah.
who's here. You all saw her when you registered. And we want to know a little about you. So tell us your name, where you're from, and why you're here.
Before you do that, Bobby, tell them where you from.
Hi everyone, my name is Bobby Blake. I'm originally from Ridgeville, South Carolina. I've been working with Dr. Cannady for about 2 years.
So she a home girl for right up the road there.
So, how many of you have heard of the word cancer disparities as a term? Okay, one. Anyone else? All right. Well, cancer disparities, and I'm going to give you the actual definition and tell you the easier interpretation. All right, so the National Cancer Institute defines cancer disparities as the differences in the incidence or new cancer cases, the prevalence or the cancer cases that are occurring right now, mortality, which is death, and burden of cancer and related adverse health conditions that exist among specific populations in the United States. Now, what does this really mean? It really means the differences that we're seeing in cancer, right? So these differences can be within genders, it can be within racial groups, it can be within states. So for example, let's say that in South Carolina, we'll use both black men and white men, right? Let's say that men in South Carolina, let's say 5,000 men die in South Carolina. When we look at Florida, we'll say that 100,000 men in Florida die from prostate cancer or from cancer. right? That's what we call a disparity. It's the differences in the cancer deaths in this case between South Carolina and Florida. And you can do the same thing for race as well. If you look at black men and white men in South Carolina, and we'll see some of this information later. Let's say in South Carolina, only 100 white men die from prostate cancer, but yet we have 50,000 black men die from prostate cancer. That's what we call a cancer disparity related to death. And you can do the same thing for new cancer cases or for cancer cases that are occurring. So that's what cancer disparity means. It's literally the differences in what we're seeing with cancer. Right? And I mentioned that we're talking about new cancer cases, cancer deaths. What are some of the causes of cancer disparities? Poisons in the environment, right? As well as low education level, poor food quality, unemployment, poor housing, and poverty. Now, who is the race that's affected more by these issues here in South Carolina and in the nation?
You said who is?
Who's more likely to live in poverty, poor housing?
There's a lot of people of African descent.
Exactly.
That,
Exactly. And that's why you're going to see with all the data that I'm going to show of African Americans, some high cancer disparity that's related to other races.
How does unemployment
Because if you don't have money, then you can't get health care, then you can't buy healthier foods. That's why it is. Right? So the result in lack of quality health care, quality housing, nutritious food, all of these. All right, and all of these factors, they increase cancer risk. And we're going to talk about why all of these factors increase cancer risk throughout this presentation. Right? So what is Holland's Cancer Center? What do they do about that? They created the Cancer Disparities Program. This is something that I'll kind of briefly talk about. They created this program in 2006. The associate director is Marnella Ford, shown here. And there are several things that we do to combat cancer disparities. A lot of it's through education. Right? So we conduct a lot of cancer disparities activities with partners here in South Carolina. That's what we're doing now with Queen Quet, partnering with her to provide this cancer education guide and facilitator training. Right? We also develop specific targeted research interventions, so we're trying to look at why we're seeing these cancer disparities. Why are there these differences between men and women and between different races? So we're trying to identify research in ways that we can look into why we're seeing these differences in cancer deaths. And also increasing the number of investigators in South Carolina who conduct cancer disparities research. Who better to learn about us than us, right? So we have a lot of summer programs that I've actually talked about here that we'll go into, where we are recruiting students, preferably African American students, from colleges in South Carolina to teach them about research, specifically cancer disparities research, so they can go, once they graduate college, and become researchers, try to figure out why is this person affected with cancer more so than the other person. So that's that we do. We do a lot of education. We can't go out and screen people because that's not our expertise. But what we want to do is empower the community, and we do that through education. What I'm going to do is we're going to get into the meat of this training, which is our cancer education guide. Now, this guide was created in 1998 by the Women's Cancer Coalition, and the Women's Cancer Coalition merged with the South Carolina Cancer Alliance in 2002. Now, they created this in 1998 to educate the community about cancer prevention, about cancer screening guidelines, and things to do to prevent cancer, talk about cancer risks, things like that. Now, the Holland's Cancer Center started to deliver the cancer education guide in 2007 after they formed the Cancer Disparities Program. Now, why do we do this? It's because we want to teach people like you to be our ambassadors, to go out to the community and to talk to people about cancer. And why is that? It's because people are scared of the word cancer. People are scared of it. They don't want to go on screens. They don't even want to think about it. I set up booths at health fairs, and literally, since we're cancer disparities, they see the word cancer, and I've had people run from my table. Literally say, oh, cancer, oh, no. Like, they don't want to speak it, because they feel like if they say the word, they're going to speak it into existence. And so we want you guys to let them know that that's not the case. Cancer, of course, can be scary, but if you know about it, it won't be as scary, all right? And so I'm going to give you today the tools that you're going to need when you go out and you start teaching other individuals, all right? Now, I'm going to give you the full presentation right now, but I want to let you know, and I'm going to talk about this after the presentation. When you go out and you talk to community, this is going to be your own. You're going to make it your own, all right? This presentation and the notebooks you have in front of you are going to act as a guide when you go out and talk to people, because like I said, it's going to give you suggestions for how you can have each of your sessions when you talk to people about cancer, all right? So first I'm going to go through the whole presentation, but like I said, when you give your own, you don't have to do the whole presentation. You can literally just take bits and pieces of whatever your interest is in or whatever someone is interested in learning about, okay? Alright. So like I said, right now, the Women's Cancer Coalition merged with the South Carolina Cancer Alliance. So now it's just the South Carolina Cancer Alliance and MUSC. Now the goal of both of these organizations is to reduce the cancer burden, to reduce cancer disparities in South Carolina, and to reduce the cancer burden on everybody in South Carolina. All right. Now this guide is one of the ways that we do that, again, all through education. Okay, I'm in your way. All right. So again, we want to teach the community about cancer prevention, and this guide is one of the ways that we do that. So we're going to talk about what cancer is. We're going to talk about cancer causes and risks, common cancers, cancer in South Carolina, cancer disparities in South Carolina, cancer care and treatment, prevention and early detection of cancer, family medical history, and resources for families. Again, you're going to get a lot of information today, but that's because as facilitators, you need to know what you have in what we're going to call your toolbox, all right? And I do want to say that at the back of your notebooks, you have a flash drive. I think they're all maybe green or blue. And all the presentations that I have given today are on those flash drives. All right, so if you want any of these slides, they're all on there. And if they're not, if there's something that you want that you don't have, call me or email me, and I'll make sure that you have it. Okay? So what's the impact of cancer? You know, some of us talked about how they've been affected with cancer. I'm pretty sure maybe some of you probably know someone who has been affected with cancer or who have died from cancer, right? So cancer is the second leading cause of death. Does anybody know what the first leading cause is?
Is it heart disease?
Exactly, heart disease. Now in the United States, 500,000 people die each year from cancer, but a lot of this could be prevented. If people would go in and get their screenings, you could prevent cancer. And why? I'm going to say this a lot, especially when we're talking about the specific cancers and the screening guidelines. Early detection is the best prevention. The earlier you go in to get screened, if they find cancer, then you can get treated. The earlier you get treated, the better chance you have of surviving. What we're going to talk about later on is a lot of people, specifically African Americans, they'll deny it until they start having really bad symptoms. And then they'll go into the hospital, find out they have a later stage cancer, therefore, and then sometimes it's not treatable, or it's too late and they'll die. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these cancer disparities and the deaths in South Carolina because of that. And we'll talk about that later as well. So what is cancer? To understand cancer, we have to look at the cellular level. I want to take you all back to science class when you were in probably middle school or high school. Do you remember the teacher talking about cells being the building blocks in units? All right? So you have cells. The more cells you get tissues, you get organs, you get an organ system, and then you get human. All right? So normally cells, as normal cells, it'll grow, it will divide, then it will die. But in the case of cancer, these cells are not normal. These cancer cells, they're continuously growing, they're not dying, right? So that's why we get these tumors. Remember, cells can form tissues, right, or masses, but when these cancer cells are continuously growing and growing and growing and they're not dying, you can get tumors, right? There's different types of tumors. There are benign tumors. These are not cancerous and they do not spread in the body. And you also have malignant tumors, and these can spread throughout the body and they are cancerous. There's also metastasis, or the spread of cancer through the body. Now this can do this two ways. You can do a direct invasion, where your cancer cells in one part of your body directly invades the next tissue next to it. That's a direct invasion. Now metastasis can also occur when cancer cells get into your bloodstream or your lymphatic system. Now your lymphatic system, instead of circulating blood through your body, it circulates lymph through your body, lymph fluid. And if cancer gets in that system, it can spread throughout your body. All right, and they call that a liquid cancer because it doesn't form tumors. It's literally in the stream and it's just moving through your body. So there are two ways of metastasis. Okay. Usually some of the cancer types, not all. They include uterine, breast, skin, throat, mouth, stomach, prostate, ovarian, colon, testicular, lung, and rectal. Now, cancer gets its name from the tissue in which it originates. All right. So, in the case of breast cancer, Breast cancer is where you have cancer cells that originate in the breast. Now what happens when these cells metastasize or they move throughout the body? What is that considered? So for example, let's say that we have a tissue that starts in the breast, cancer cells that start in the breast, let me say that, and then it moves to the stomach. Is it still considered breast cancer if it moves to the stomach, or is it not considered stomach cancer? Exactly.
From their origin.
Exactly. So when things metastasize, it's still considered a cancer from its origin. So, and how a doctor can do that is that even though the cancer started in the breast and moved to the stomach, if the doctor takes cells from the stomach, they're still going to look like breast cancer cells. All of these tissues have different, the cells have different morphologies, or they all look different. So even though they move or metastasize to another location, they're still going to look like their original location or where they came from. So even if a cancer moves from the breast to the stomach, it's still considered a breast cancer metastasized to the stomach. Okay? So what are some of these cancer causes and risks? They include lack of physical activity, poor diet, family history. It's very important to know your family history. We'll talk about that. Tobacco use. Tobacco use is associated with 30% of cancer deaths. It's a high percentage. And also sun exposure. Now all of these are preventable. We can be more active. We can eat healthier. We can limit or stop our use of tobacco. We can limit our sun exposure. Can't really limit family history. And then also cases that are not yet known. But all of these cancer causing risks can be preventable. Right. What are some of the myths? What are some of the myths that you all have heard about cancer?
No, our pastor, he died from cancer, so it was really.
Any other myths, like something causes cancer? Sometimes they say that antiperspirants or deodorants can cause breast cancer. Anybody heard anything like that about that? All right, so that's actually a myth. So a lot of people think that cell phone usage, antiperspirants, the wires in your bra, they think that all that's associated with cancer. They think that also bumps or bruises, they don't cause cancer. All right? One of the questions, do I have to worry if no one in my family has had cancer? What do you guys think the answer to that is?
It has to start someplace. It might be the one where it started.
Exactly. What you're going to see throughout this talk is that most of these cancers, only 5 to 10% of them are inherited. And it's just that the 90 to 95% of them occur because as the older you get, your cells start to mutate, your DNA starts to mutate, and that can lead to cancer. So only 5 to 10% of them are inherited. Can I catch cancer? What do you think the answer to that is?
No.
Well, there's a caveat. You can't catch cancer. However, there are organisms that can cause cancer that we'll talk about, like human papillomavirus or HPV. There's HBV, there's HIV. Some of these are infectious agents that can develop cancer. And we'll find out, and when we talk about cervical cancer and HPV, that individuals can catch HPV, and that can lead to cervical cancer. So you can catch the infectious agents that can lead to cancer, but you can't catch cancer.
That's another question. Can you have stomach cancer without having breast cancer?
Yes. Yeah. I only gave that example is if it metastasizes or moves to another location. You can definitely have a cancer only in one spot.
You didn't mention cancer in the home.
No, I didn't mention all, just some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be a really long list of cancers. So I just mentioned some of the more well-known. Does cancer mean death?
No.
Exactly. Remember, early detection is the best prevention. The earlier you go in for screening, the likelier you are to remain healthy or get treated if you have cancer. All right, does surgery spread cancer?
No.
It does not. Now, yes. I don't want to start causing questions. Doctors are supposed to have a special method when they are cutting out tumors. They are supposed to only use certain equipment for that one tumor, and then if they have to go to another location, they're supposed to change it out and move to another one, right? Because you don't want to introduce a cancerous cell to another region. So they are trained to, when they're doing surgery, especially dealing with cancer, to do it in a special method. All right? So these are just some some of the myths that people are here and talk about. So the South Carolina Cancer Report Card, I won't spend much time on this because it seems like they're not updating it. So this is basically the South Carolina Cancer Alliance comparing South Carolina to the rest of the nation. And they use the high school grading scale, A through F. And of course, if you had to guess where South Carolina ranked, looking at cancer deaths in South Carolina compared to the nation, what do you think we had? F. Pretty bad. But that was in 2010. And like I said, they're not really updating this. I won't really go into too much. But we, compared to the rest of the nation, we had a lot of deaths, a lot of cancer deaths.
Why aren't they updated?
You know, I don't know if they're supposed to.
Right.
But I don't know why. I don't know if because now DHEC has this scan method where you can look at the number of deaths, and I know also that they're going through a lot of different executive
Train changes.
people, so it could be that as well. Because I know they just got it going a few months ago.
Wow, okay.
So let's look at the cancer deaths in South Carolina. Now let me explain this slide to you. All right, the blue represents the men. The pink represents the women. All right. On the left side, looking at new cancer cases in South Carolina in 2012 is the most recent data that they have published. All right. And on the right side, we're looking at the cancer deaths in men and women. Okay. Now let's compare. Let's look at men first. Let's look at the blue guys. What is the #1 new cancer in men? Exactly. What's that?
Bronchitis.
Bronchitis, right.
Bronchitis. And for women, what's the #1 and #2 new cancer case in South Carolina?
Breast and lung bronchitis.
Exactly. Now let's look at cancer deaths. Are they similar? Let's look at men. What's the #1 cancer death?
Lung bronchitis.
Exactly. And #2?
Prostate.
So now we're seeing that even though we're getting a lot of new cancer cases for prostate, that actually the #1 death is from lung cancer. And for women, what's the #1 and 2?
It's again lung bronchitis.
Again, we're seeing that switch. So even though we're getting new breast cancer cases, or more breast cancer cases, more people are dying from lung cancer than breast cancer. Right? Now these are just the new cancer cases and cancer deaths. Let's look at this in the realm of cancer disparities. Okay? So if we look at the cancer deaths and we compare it to the nation, in 2012, South Carolina ranked 13th for cancer deaths. Out of 50 states, we were 13th. We have that many cancer deaths. Right? So let's look at the racial differences, or again, these racial disparities in South Carolina. I'm going to explain this bar graph to you. Blue represents the European Americans, or the white people in South Carolina, that have died from cancer. And then yellow represents the African Americans, the black people that have died from cancer. All right? Now, these numbers represent the number of individuals that have died per 100,000 people. So let's take all cancer types here in the blue. Let's say 170 white people per 100,000 white people die from all different types of cancers. All right? Now, if we look at the yellow bars, we had more African Americans die from cancer. So let's say we had almost 200 men per 100,000 black men die from cancer. You guys understand that? All right, so let's look at breast cancer. Females. Because males can get breast cancer as well. There's only around 1% or less than 1% of males who get breast cancer. Who had a higher death rate? Black women? You said black women, exactly. Colorectal cancer? Who had a higher death rate? They're pretty similar. Exactly. So let me go back to breast cancer. All right, so even though black women have a higher death rate, white women actually are diagnosed with breast cancer more than black women. All right, but black women have a higher death rate from breast cancer because they wait too long to go to the doctor, and by the time they start presenting symptoms, they're already at a more advanced stage. So that's why we're seeing more deaths among African American women from breast cancer.
And I take it that goes back to the earlier part about the poverty rate, the medical, the accessibility.
It could be, that's definitely one of the factors that definitely plays into why they wait for so long. Alright, so for colorectal cancer, you see that African Americans have a higher death rate. They're actually diagnosed, black men and black women, they're diagnosed more with colorectal cancer than white men and women. And they have higher death rates. Prostate cancer, you see that African American men have 3 times a higher death rate than white men. This is huge. It's often 3 times, and it's also really clinically the largest rate in the nation as well. Now, lung cancer, we start to see the differences. We see for lung cancer that white men have a lower death rate than black men, but when we get women, that's switched, where we have more white women are dying from lung cancer than the females. So let's do a little quick quiz on what we've learned so far. All right, is it true or false? Among women, breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer. Is that true or false?
True.
Exactly. Remember, it was number 1. Right? Number 2, true or false? Breast cancer causes the most female cancer deaths. Is that true or false?
False.
Exactly. What was number 1? Do you remember it?
The lung bronchus.
Yes, lung cancer. Number 3, blank is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in men. Exactly. That was number 1. Number 4, true or false? Lung cancer is the most common cause of cancer death among men.
True.
Exactly, for both men and women. All right. Name one cancer that takes the lives of many men.
Prostate.
Exactly. Prostate. We talked about another one. Exactly, lung. Number 6, a female cancer that may be detected very early with a pap test. We haven't talked about it yet.
Cervical.
Exactly. Number 7, true or false? In South Carolina, white women are diagnosed with breast cancer more often than black women. It's true. I mentioned it. Remember? They are diagnosed more, but black women are dying. Yes. Yes. And number 8, true or false? White men are diagnosed with colorectal cancer at a higher rate than black men in South Carolina. False. Remember I mentioned that too? For colorectal cancer, African American men and women have higher incidence rates and higher death rates. Right. Now, how is cancer found? Through medical checkups or through screening tests. Now, I want to tell a story of a colleague who used to work here with me, and I thought his story was so good, and it fits so well with this, is that his wife went in for a medical checkup. It was just a standard checkup. She didn't have any symptoms, any problems. But, she was getting her routine blood test, and they looked at some numbers for one of the proteins they're looking at, and it was really high. So they did further tests, she had pancreatic cancer. And they gave her, I think, 46 months to live, and she held out for almost a year. But she did pass away. So I think it really goes to show, this is not only just for cancer screening, but regular checkups as well. She didn't know anything was wrong. She didn't have any symptoms, but she went in and they said something's wrong. Just regular medical checkup. And had pancreatic cancer. But pancreatic cancer is one of the rougher cancers to get. I mean, the survival rate, depending on what type you have, is really low, very low.
But how many general practitioners are truly trained to diagnose that something would be wrong? So if you just go to your basic person, like the St. Helena Clinic's right next door, I mean, your general practitioner, how often are they going to be likely to say you need to go check on something out?
This is my opinion. All right, this is my opinion. And I do want to put this statement out here. I am not an MD. I can't diagnose any issues. I will give you my opinion and tell you about the scientific research going on. All right? Now, this is my opinion. Dealing with the interactions that I've had with the community, it's going to vary. Because you have some doctors that are more vigilant than others, that are more respective when it comes to people's situations, that are more interested in learning about what's going on and how to do it. And you have some that are dismissive. Oh, well, you don't have insurance that, that provide you with this. So they're not really going to look into it. So I think it just depends on who you go to. And I'm really sorry to say that, but it's true.
But
Exactly. Yeah.
That kind of the conversation my mother and I had last night, where she said she had went in to get a particular vaccine. She just went for the prescription to go somewhere to get it. And instead of the person just getting the doctor to write the prescription, the nurse instead said, "Oh, but that's very expensive." But she never asked you about the expense. She asked you for the doctor for a prescription.
And I feel like a lot of these nurses and doctors, they need to go through some kind of sensitivity training.
They do.
Because I feel like they just become so callous to people's situations.
Yeah.
And it really hurts me. I think that's why we have problems that we have now. Because people don't want to go to a doctor.
Right.
When they're going to get treated like that.
Exactly.
But there's nothing that I can do about that. But this is how I feel.
Right.
And it's kind of sad too. And it's money when you're trying to drive around and trying to find the best person for you.
And I disagree, there's nothing you can do about it, because you doing these trainings helps people. It helps empower people,
True.
where they do feel more comfortable knowing maybe I do need a second and third opinion. Or if that particular doctor is callous, it doesn't mean all of them are. I just maybe need to go to somebody else.
Thank you, yes. Yeah.
It doesn't, I feel like it depends upon the doctor,
Yeah.
individual, each one.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we had an incident in our family where my daughter found out that she had problems with her thyroid from the, gynecologist. Which she, her throat, that he found these nodules, and they really thought they were cancerous, but they weren't, thank God. But she went to one part of her body and he diagnosed another part.
And I think that, I think I was talking to someone earlier about dentists were saying, I was talking to a dentist, and they were actually diagnosing people with, not even diagnosing, but saying, you know, you might have cancer, you can check out. So I think they're talking about how the breath smells, or how things look, then they can really say, okay, you've got an issue somewhere, that you need to go get that checked out as well. Yeah. Okay, so how's cancer treated? All right. Now you guys have heard about radiation. We're looking at x-rays that really is more focused on that part of the cancer, and that's going to destroy the cancer cells. There's drugs, chemotherapy, and biotherapy. Now, chemotherapy isn't as targeted as radiation. So chemotherapy, that will target the cancer cells, but also other cells. And that's why people have the side effects like nausea and hair loss, because it's getting the healthy cells too.
Well, wouldn't radiation do the same thing too?
It could, but this one is still going to be more focused, because they're going to focus it on that one area as compared to the chemotherapy. And biotherapy is kind of a general term they use for a lot of different things. It could be vaccines that may not prevent cancer, but could prevent some of the side effects. That also includes targeted therapy that people are trying to know, okay, I know that this protein is malfunctioning in your body. You know, we're going to try to work on that. And I think that people gene therapy are having problems or issues with that, but it also could be really expensive. So biotherapy kind of covers that. And then we talked about surgery, removing tumors, cancerous tumors. These are all different methods of how you can treat cancer. Right. So what can we do? We talked about the risks. So basically you want to get rid of these risks, but you have to do the opposite, which is you want to eat healthy, right? Eat healthy, you want to limit your alcohol, you want to protect yourself from the sun, you need to know your family medical history, you need to follow screening guidelines. We'll talk about that towards the end. You also want to exercise regularly, and you want to avoid tobacco products because, again, it's associated with 30% of cancer deaths.
And alcohol, what percentage
Go
how
ahead.
much?
We'll talk about that in like 1 or 2 slides. Alcohol. Are you good to drink over there?
I was wondering the same thing.
All right. Do not use tobacco. Tobacco has a lot of chemicals in it that can really mess with your cells functioning. All right. So tobacco can cause not only lung cancer or mouth cancer, it can really cause other cancers because you're taking in all these harmful chemicals. All right. That includes cigars, cigarettes, chewing tobacco or snuff.
Snuff.
They call that
Yeah.
pipes and electronic cigarettes. It's becoming such a big fad now, right?
Yeah.
Electronic cigarettes because it's supposed to be a little bit healthier. Now I will say it does contain less toxic chemicals than regular cigarettes, but because they're kind of new, they don't really know about the long-term side effects from electronic cigarettes. But it still has nicotine, so you still get addicted to it.
Right.
All right. I also want to say here, secondhand smoke also causes cancer. Right? Like people say, my mom is a smoker, my grandma's a smoker, my dad's a smoker, my father's a smoker. And all she says is, oh, my lungs are healthy. You know? Because I like talking to her about lung cancer, and I'm like, but you're causing secondhand smoke. And she could smoke it back in the day. Like her and my grandma could put them down. And I keep telling them, what about the rest of us? You know, like my grandma smoked so much that when I go to her house, smoke just permeates on the walls. So even if she's not smoking around me and I just sit there, I smell like smoke.
Now, let me ask a question on that. How come you don't have a hookah up there?
That's a good one. That should be up there too.
Okay.
And I have to tell you mine.
What's that?
A hookah?
A hookah.
Yeah, it's they're different shapes of them, but most of them I've seen people doing like glass.
Or the
There's
glass.
pipes with the
Yeah,
wall
different
set.
flavors.
Yeah, different
And I have to
flavors.
say how
of the
stupid I was. I went to Turkey, my family was in Turkey, you know, the hookah kind of originated over in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I had smoked hookah, it was horrible. But I was like, I want to do it. And then I realized, this is tobacco.
Right.
What am I
You
doing?
didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah, no. I had my experience and I'm done. I mean, it burnt really. But yes, that needs to go up there too. And I will put that up there.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. course, we eat healthy foods, right? We want to start incorporating more whole grains. We want to make half our plate consist of fruits and vegetables, right? We also want to start incorporating more antioxidants. So antioxidants are chemicals that are supposed to help cells or protect cells from damage. Thus, they're thinking that it can help protect cells getting cancer from damage from cancer. All right. What are antioxidants found in? More of your bright fruits and vegetables. So we're talking about blueberries and cranberries and tomatoes and apples. So a lot of antioxidants are found in those type of foods. And I will say that they prefer people to, when they want antioxidants, get it from the food source, not from the supplements. Because supplements will not act the same way as they do in the food source when it comes to antioxidants. I'm gonna limit your fats. I know I look so good. All right, a high fat diet could cause cancer, right? You want to limit your saturated fats. You want to limit your trans fats. Your saturated fats are the fats that become solid at room temperature. So like if you cook a sausage or a hamburger, and then that sits out for a little bit, it becomes hard. That's a saturated fat.
You mean I can't use lard and Crisco?
I know, yes, yes.
But it was good fat.
But you can limit it. You can limit it. You also want to eat more lean meat, like fish and poultry. You want to limit the red meat that you eat and the pork. If you do eat red meat pork, I love red meat. You want to eat the pieces of the meat that have loin or round on them. Those are the more healthier meats, those cuts. And you also want to trim the fat off of the meat because that's the saturated fat. Right? And also you should be aware of the added fat. So let's say we're eating a baked potato and I ask you, you want sour cream, you want butter, you want cheese? That's an added fat. So you limit that as well. Even for the salads, like the salad dressings, it's all an added fat. Like we're thinking we're eating healthy. When you start adding all the extra stuff on it, it's no longer as healthy as it was. So you want to limit that as well. Okay. Alcohol side. You want to limit or avoid alcohol. So, according to the American Cancer Society, 1 drink of beer is 12 ounces. 1.5 ounces of liquor is a drink, and 5 ounces of wine is considered a drink. Now, men can have 2 glasses of alcohol per day. Women, they advise 1. They, of course, the American Cancer Society, alcohol and ACS, also advise that individuals don't binge drink. Binge drink is when you drink 4 to 5 glasses per hour. And you also cannot save up your glasses to drink for the weekend.
For the whole week, right.
Exactly. So you can drink Monday to Friday.
That's how you can get it all.
Exactly. You can't do that. You can't do, I didn't drink 10 glasses Monday to Friday. I'm going to drink them on the weekend. You can't do that.
Wow.
Alright, so you want to limit that. Of course, you want to exercise regularly. They recommend that individuals get 150 minutes per week of exercise, or maybe 30 minutes for 5 days. Right? So do what we can. Take the steps instead of the stairs if you're not going up too many. If you're parking at a store, try to park further away and walk in. Do what you can. Try to increase your exercise. You don't have to do. You can do what you can. If you can't do 30 minutes per day, then try to break it up. You know, maybe do 10 minutes of walking or 5 minutes of walking here, and like maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, and then space it out through the day. Do whatever you can so you can try to increase your physical activity.
And don't walk it back and forth to the refrigerator or the stove, getting it blow up.
I know, right? I mean, you're getting physical activity, but you're also incorporating the other bad things. You also want to limit your sun exposure. Anyone can get skin cancer, okay? Even if you're not going to the tanning bed, you have to be careful. Alright? Of course, I say do not use tanning beds. It's preferable to wear hats and sunscreen, sunglasses when you're outside. The saying is slip on a shirt, slap on a hat, slap on some sunscreen, and wrap sunglasses around your eyes. Slip, slap, slop, wrap. I also have to remember anyways. That's what they say when it comes to sunscreen. And they also say if you wear sunscreen, to use SPF 30, at least SPF 30 or sun protection factor 30 to get better protection from the sun rays. And they also, if you need to go outside, try to prevent going out between 10 and 4 o'clock because that's when the sun is the highest and then the warmest. You have more exposure to the sun around those times. Okay. Again, early detection is the best protection. So now remember, we need to know our family medical history. We need to avoid tobacco products. Why? Because they're related to 30% of cancer deaths. We need to be active daily. We need to protect ourselves from the sun. We need to eat healthy food and limit alcohol. And we need to follow our screening guidelines. Right? Early detection is the best protection.